Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kettering Planning Commission for January 3rd, 2022. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Miami Valley Cable Council for televising and taping tonight's meeting for rebroadcast on Channel 6 and streaming live over the internet at mvcc.net. It will also be recorded and available for later viewing on mvcc.net. Since this meeting is both audio and videotaped to form a complete record for possible appeal to City Council and/or the courts, it is important that anyone who wishes to address the Commission will need to come to the lectern to speak into the microphone and give their name and address for the record. Planning Commission is a volunteer independent body appointed by Council whose mission is to hear all bodies involved and subsequently make a motion to approve, deny, continue, or recommend the application. All action by the Commission can be appealed to City Council. All right, at this time, I would like to introduce the Planning Commission members. This is our first meeting of the year, which is when we will be electing our officers. So I am going to introduce based on new positions, and if by chance the vote fails later, we'll come back and correct. On my far left is Ken Lackey, our Assistant Secretary. Next is Carol Fisher, our Secretary. My name is Don Shimon. I will be Chairman. On my right is Don Rethman, who's Commissioner. And excused tonight with absences, we have Ray Waske, who will be our Vice Chair, as well as our Recording Secretary, Connie Gaw. For City staff is today is Ryan Holmesy, our City Planner. All right, first item on the agenda tonight is a approval of the minutes of December 6th, 2021. Does anybody have any comments, discussion on the minutes?
None.
Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Was that Mr. Rethman seconded? Okay. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
And Mr. Shimon?
Yes. All right, our second item on the agenda is the appointment of the officers for 2022. And Ms. Fisher.
Yes, now that you've let the cat out of the bag, I'll go ahead with the chairperson for next year would be Don Shimon, Vice Chair Ray Waske, Secretary Carol Fisher, Assistant Secretary Ken Lackey, and Planning Commission member.
All right. We have a motion. Was that your motion?
That
to
is
approve?
the motion for the.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
And Mr. Shimon?
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is a new business. This is a dedication plat, a portion of West Avenue. It is PC, or his case PC-21-020. For staff would be Mr. Holmesy.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. This is a very straightforward dedication plan. As you'll recall, I believe it was a part of when the Acorn Walk development began, probably close to 9 or 10 years ago. The city constructed an extension of West Avenue further to the west of where the current location is on a piece of city-owned property, but that portion of roadway was never dedicated as public right-of-way, and now our engineering department is seeking to dedicate just this portion dotted in, outlined in red as public right-of-way. And I believe the purpose of that is they're applying for, or they have applied for and received some ODOT funding to repair or replace this bridge, and I believe an ODOT requirement is that it be dedicated as public right-of-way before they'll help finance that project. Here's the dedication plan. You can see that same red outline. That's the piece that's being dedicated as public right-of-way. Again, it's on a city-owned property. This is kind of a housekeeping item. In the report that went out, staff did a review of the dedication plan based on our subdivision and platting requirements. And based on that review, other than the certification, the engineer certification, or the surveyor certification on the final Mylar before it's signed, everything else has been met. Another item on that list that went out with the report that that we put a condition on dealt with the scale, elevation, and profiles, and we recommended a condition that the applicant agree to coordinate with any modifications recommended by our engineering department, and they've since reviewed it, and they're okay with it. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we do have a recommendation that I'd be more than happy to go over.
All right, let's see if there's any questions first. Mr. Lackey?
I don't have anything.
Ms. Fisher? Mr. Ruthman?
Nope.
The only thing I have, and it's, I'm sure would be changed, is on the actual plat itself that you have on your screen. Up in the top right where it says at a point or approved on this day at a meeting, it says 2021.
Oh,
So just an FYI.
yes, we will have that corrected. We could actually, we can either modify the second condition to require that, or we can just say that it can't be signed until that's corrected anyways, just for legal purposes, so.
Either way, I figured it would get caught at some point. Just wanted to make sure that was out there. All right. I have no further questions at this point. Since this is not a public hearing, we'll just go straight to a staff recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. The staff recommendation is that the Planning Commission motion to approve the record plan as a part of case number PC-21-020 with the following conditions. Number one, the plat drawing be sealed by the surveyor prior to Planning Commission's signature. And number two, the applicant agrees to coordinate and adhere to any changes recommended by the Montgomery County Engineer's Office, the Montgomery County Environmental Services, the Kettering Engineering Department, and the Kettering Fire Department prior to the city providing the needed signatures on the plat.
All right. Any final questions from Commission? No. All right. Mr. Ruthman, I believe you have a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a motion for West Avenue dedication plan. Whereas an application has been received from Thomas Robillard, 3600 Schroyer Road, Kettering, Ohio, 45429, requesting approval of a dedication plan that would dedicate a 0.569 acre portion of West Avenue. And whereas this request constitutes approval of a final dedication plan for this portion of West Avenue, and whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the facts surrounding this request, including an oral and written report by city staff, which is incorporated herein. I move that the applicant's request for approval of a final dedication plan for the West Avenue be approved with the following conditions, which shall be completed prior to signatures by the Planning Commission. Number one, the plat drawing be sealed by the surveyor prior to Planning Commission signature. Two, the applicant agrees to coordinate and adhere to any changes recommended by the Montgomery County's Engineer's Office, Montgomery County Environmental Services, the Kettering Engineering Department, and the Kettering Fire Department prior to the city providing the needed signatures on the plat. This concludes my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ruthman,
Yes.
Mr. Lackey,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
and Mr. Shimon.
Yes. All right. Next item on the agenda is audience participation. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this commission about anything other than items on the tonight's agenda, if you come forward now. Seeing none. Moving on to other business, signing of plats,
There's none this evening.
communications and reports.
None this evening.
Planning Commission comments. Mr. Lackey.
I don't have anything this morning.
Ms. Fisher?
This evening.
Mr. Ruthman.
Nope.
I have nothing this evening, so that being the case, we will adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:09 p.m.